Hey everyone, today in the video we will discuss a case study in which ForceBolt has prepared a performance testing approach using JMeter to monitor and analyze the servers and the website's performance. The client's requirements are as follows. First, 20 users will visit the same website and they are hitting the server in the period of 1 minute. The requirement was to analyze the web server's performance, that is whether all the users can visit the site in the given time. Second, all users are visiting 2 pages on the website, so the other requirement was to generate a tabular report depicting whether the server is responding to the user's request in the given time. For the successful completion of the project, we used the JMeter tool for performance testing. The arrangement of 100 people with PC and internet access simultaneously, Google.com access, was not feasible. There was a need for infrastructure requirements when testing for 10,000 users. Hence, we need a software tool like JMeter that will simulate real user behaviors and performance, load test your site. Let me give you a brief introduction to JMeter. JMeter is used to perform performance testing, functional testing, and load testing of web applications. Performance testing means testing a web application against heavy load and multiple and concurrent user traffic. JMeter originally is used for testing web applications for FTP applications. Let me show you the functionality of JMeter. Step 1. First, we create a group of virtual users to visit the website. Right-click on the test plan, click on Add, move the cursor on the threads and click on Thread Group. Suppose all the users visit the website within 1 minute, so that ramp-up time will be given 60 seconds here. After creating the users group, we'll move to create requests for some web pages on the website. We have provided the name of the thread group as users. Now right-click on the user, move the cursor to Add, go to the sampler and click on the HTTP request. Let me give you a brief about samplers. Samplers in JMeter allows it to send different requests to a server. Samplers are the actual requests JMeter sends to the web server under test. Select the HTTP request for the visiting HTTP server. For the request of fetching the data, use the HTTP method JET. Create the next request for the other page on the same server. For the request of fetching the data, use the HTTP method JET. We do not mention the server name when it could get changed in the future. In such a case, we use the HTTP request defaults configuration element and we specify the server name in this element. What are configuration elements? Let's talk about that. Configuration elements allow you to create defaults and variables used by samplers. They are used to add or modify requests made by samplers. Let's talk about HTTP request default. You will specify the default settings for your HTTP requests. It simply defines the default values that the HTTP request elements use. So, the server name or IP will be imposed by HTTP request default element in all requests in a particular thread group. It will not send any requests to the server. We will not mention the path in HTTP default because we have already mentioned distinct paths for different web pages in HTTP requests. Only the server name will be mentioned here. Here is an overview of the listener report. It's time to execute the requests by concurrent users and generate the report for performance testing. Before running the test plan, let's have a listener. Now click on the Run button. Now JMeter will generate the performance testing report of a server. The listener will show the results as shown here. Let me show you the demo. First of all, let's go to the JMeter. As you can see, the test plan is visible here by default. Now we'll right-click over the test plan, guiding us to move to the threads or the groups. If you look at my screen, you can see this is the thread group where my cursor is and is denoting a group of users who will visit a particular web page or multiple web pages over a specific website. And in addition, we can easily name it as users. And now we can give the number or count of users who will visit a particular website accordingly. So we will provide, or let's say 20 users. However, the ramp-up mirror then denotes the highlights how much time all the 20 users will consume to track or send the requests to the server and get the response from it simultaneously. Also, it does count the denotes such as how many times a particular user can send the request or get the response in how much time. So to keep up the record here, we'll mark the loop count as 1 and we can say or assume the ramp-up time as 1 minute or let's say 60 seconds according to the requirement. So moving further, here we can say that we want 20 users in the period of 60 seconds in which the request is sent. In addition, for the request, we can simply right-click over the thread group and go to the sampler. Here, a sampler denotes or is like a different type of request in the JMeter. Therefore, we'll go for the HTTP request, where we can name it as HTTP request 1 and later the page for which we want to access. Then from there we can simply give the link or path of that page over here. Now let's suppose I want to visit the page related to About Us only. Then in that scenario, we'll simply copy the path of this page solely, and after that we'll go to the JMeter to paste it here. Now as you can see, we'll have this method get because we just wanted to visit this particular page. After that, with the same request, now I'm going to create one more to get it done with another web page. Suppose for this different web page, I am taking another web page, this time for About Us. Accordingly, I will give the link to this front web page in another HTTP request. So as it is visible here, we have made the two requests for the two web pages, where 20 users will send the request for these two web pages. Furthermore, they will get a response within 60 seconds through the server. Moreover, this whole process will require 60 seconds, and at the same time, the 20 users will send the request to get the response within 60 seconds or 1 minute. Now let's create another configuration element, HTTP request defaults, where it will provide the domain address, server or domain you want to access with those web pages and what you have specified in the request. And then we'll select the HTTP method, which will paste the domain into this IP or the server name section. Afterward, we can see that we are using HTTP now. We can simply copy and paste that over here. Alright, we can also specify the server name or IP address over here and into the request, although we can also use HTTP request to force, which implies that it will be sending this server name to all the submissions by default, just because it is the configuration element as I have shown you before. Further, it's time to create a listener which allows you to store the results. And here, as you can see, it will guide you with the results and table, which indicates how much time we will have for this whole scenario, how much time a particular user will track, and what the performance is of the server. And this is the reason to use the listener to follow or see the results. Now we are done with the requirements, so let's run this process. If you observe or see these requests getting executed and user 1 sends the request to 1, then user 1 further sends request to user 2. This 1 denotes that iteration or the loop, but as we selected loop count, it represents the loop count. Here it means user 1 is getting the request, 1 is executed, and the users are standing and getting the request once only. So that's why this 1 is showing the loop count over here. The next moment, user 1 sends the request using an HTTP request, and then user 1 sends a request to user 2. Again, the process involves sending request 1 and user 2 sends request 2. So the number of users interested in this method will send or get the responses. So we can see here that we have 40 samplers because we have count of 20 users, and these 20 users will send request to 1 and 2. And that is why we get 40 samplers over here. I want to imply it as the start time that denotes the connection time with the server. Afterward, these threads or users are named accordingly, and these are the labels for the request of the sample time. Here, the sample time is defined as the time in which a particular sample time 1 specific user sent the request and got the response from the server. So it is the time that denotes how much time was being taken into this process. So as my screen displays, this is the status and all groups are green. So it announces that your request is executed over the server. And this is the byte side where whatever data is given into your request or the response will show the number of bytes over here. Moreover, this is the sent bytes and this area offers latency. Latency showcases how much data you are getting from the server, which is the time connected with the request getting over the server. That's all about this video. This is how we have successfully catered to the client's requirements. Do you require any assistance with web development or app development project? You can undoubtedly rely upon us to meet all your development needs. Contact expert team of developers at ForceBolt who can give technical consulting and satisfy your demands as they are knowledgeable in both technologies and have experience in their specific niche.